As we continue in week 3 of 21 days of prayer and fasting, we're going to press into something that many of us feel but don't always name: fear. Not the loud kind, not like panic or anxiety necessarily, but the quieter fear that rises when God asks us to let go or to offer him something that feels deeply valuable to us. Surrender isn't always hard because it's painful. Sometimes it's hard because we're afraid of what it might cost. We're afraid of loss or uncertainty, letting go. Afraid that if we place something fully in God's hands, it might not come back to us the way that we expect or listen even at all. That fear doesn't disqualify us. It reveals how much this matters to us. Scripture gives us a powerful picture of this kind of fear in Genesis 22. When God asks Abraham to offer his son, Isaac, Isaac wasn't just a son, he was a promise. He represented Abraham's future, his legacy, the fulfillment of everything God had spoken over his life. Yet God calls Abraham into a moment of surrender that doesn't make logical sense. Not at all. A moment that likely stirred fear, confusion, and questions that we never see written on the page, but can only imagine are there and had to be very, very real. Questions like, did I misunderstand God's promise? How does this fit with what God already said that he would do? And still, Abraham moves forward, not because he wasn't afraid, but because he trusted God with what mattered to him the most. That's the kind of surrender fear often resists in us all. Sometimes we're willing to give God parts of our lives, but hesitate when he asks for something that feels deeply personal, valued, or tied to our sense of security or even identity. Again, this is where fasting gently exposes what's underneath. Fasting has a way of revealing the attachments we didn't even realize were there. Isn't that right? The comforts we rely on, the habits that help us to cope, the things we turn to when fear shows up. This exposure isn't meant to shame us, but to reveal areas of fear that God still wants to heal in us. Fear often whispers, what if God asks for too much? But surrender answers, he's worthy of everything. So today, here's the invitation. Take a quiet moment and ask God, what am I afraid to place in your hands? Not out of pressure or obligation, but out of honesty. It could be a relationship, a dream, a plan, a habit you've been leaning on, or it could be something good that simply has taken a place that it shouldn't in your life. Surrender doesn't deny fear. It brings fear into the presence of a faithful God. And just like Abraham, he discovered what we place in God's hand is never wasted. Let's continue pressing in today, not by pretending fear isn't there, but by bringing our fears into his presence and trusting God with every part of our lives, withholding nothing and offering him everything.